All right, out in the hallway, the other thing you're going to notice too is the woodwork is different in every room, and that's a classic characteristic of a Gothic revival style house. No two rooms have the same look. All of the woodwork out here is butternut, which was harvested on the property. Back in the day, butternut trees were very prevalent in Vermont, unfortunately not so much today. And again, the local craftspeople he hired, some of them were relatives of his, that built the house, did all the millwork on this woodwork. These side lights are the first example I'll point out of the use of flash glass, and you can see some more uses of that as we go through the house. Colored glass, colored on one edge of the glass, the rest of it is clear, as opposed to stained glass where the color's baked all the way through, so it would be less expensive to purchase than stained glass. So again, the porch too, addition to the house in 1859, when they were making their additions and changes. The next room that we'll bring you into is the parlor in the house. Carpeting in here is the oldest carpet in the house, dating from 1853.
Wow.
Just a couple years after they moved into the house, they carpeted this room. The fireplace in here, this is genuine marble, not faux marble, but not from Vermont. It came from Italy.
Oh.
So apparently it's something he really liked. He did have some connections to Italy with our minister to Italy, George Perkins Marsh. In fact, the painting that you see hanging above the fireplace is a gift from George Perkins Marsh, who was our U.S. minister to Italy for many years, and he lived in a mansion in Woodstock, Vermont. If you visited the Marsh buildings, Rockefeller, that was his home for a number of years in Woodstock. Again, the furnishings, Victorian style. That was the style of the house in Washington, D.C. Furnishings in this room, pretty much all from that house in Washington. That house was designed by Edward Clark, by the way, who's the same architect that designed our U.S. Capitol building. And I'm holding up a couple more exterior views of that house. So you'll see some chairs that you might recognize that are in this room now, that were in that house in Washington, D.C. So very, very formal, even more formal than this house. And unfortunately, has disappeared from the landscape.
Do they bring much of the artwork here?
Yes, you're going to see some more artwork as we go. A lot of the artwork are the prints. I think they weren't as expensive to purchase, but he does have some paintings from Costantino Brumidi, an Italian artist who we actually hired to paint the frescoes on the ceiling of the Capitol building and the Library of Congress building. And we became very good friends with that artist because it took so many years to do all that work. So the other piece of artwork I want to point out is this portrait of actually it's of Ruth Morrill. It's a charcoal portrait that was done when she was in her early 60s. And you saw a copy of it in the first room of the house, but that's the original.
How old was she when she died? And she seemed to outlive.
She was in her 70s. He was 88, and she was 77. She was 11 years younger than her husband.
Wow.
So the parlor opened out onto a porch, and right now we're sort of under some restoration. In fact, next year they're going to be doing a drainage project here on the grounds, and we won't be open next season. So that's going to be an extensive project to repair some drainage because we've had some moisture problems with water getting into the cellar of the house.
Stone basement?
Yeah, it's a dry laid stone basement. So of course humidity is the worst thing for keeping furnishings, preserving and stuff. So they're going to try to correct it.
Are these? I'm guessing this is wood, or is that plaster work?
That's wood with. I think they were plaster pieces you could buy to apply to that.
Huh.
Yeah, they're not carved out of wood.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So again, woodwork in every room is different.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So wild.
So the hardware here at the top of the window, they opened the window
They could open these, and then you could see the screens, and they were doors. They could actually get out onto the porch from the parlor.
Okay.
And then they had tie back curtains at one time. That's why those brackets on the side of the trim are there.
Thank you. So interesting.
Yeah, no. I'm happy to answer questions if I can.
In the dining room, above the doors, there were rooks. The castle.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Senator Morrill designed that. I've seen copies of his plans, and he actually designed the trim for the dining room that
Wow.
you see in there. The color in there is kind of a taupe color, and we know that's original because the backs of the closet doors still have that color. So we know that's the original color of the trim for that dining room. The next room we're going to bring you into, we call it a bedroom today. Back then they called them chambers. So one of Downing's principles building your Gothic style cottage, Gothic style house is that you should have a chamber conveniently located on the first floor. When you get into your older years and you have trouble
Good idea.
doing stairs, you've got a convenient place to sleep. And in fact, we know that Senator Morrill slept in this room in later years of his life from an account by a Boston journalist who came here to interview Senator Morrill. And he mentions the room in that his news account of the senator. So again, furnishings in this room, these are all walnut from the other house. The door here opened into a small dressing room. You're going to see the window for that when we walk by into the library. And off the dressing room, there was a closet. So the house has a lot of closets in it. Of course, back in that time period, not many older houses had closets because they were taxed as rooms.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
They were what rooms?
They were taxed.
Oh, taxed.
as rooms,
Yes.
A closet, so,
Huh.
yeah. And the house is thinking here. So they must have put a stove in here.
Yes, you'll see yes.
Oh.
Every room had a simple kind of a stove to heat it at the time. They didn't have a fireplace. That was heated by
I was looking at the looks like it's painted the faux wood, or is it, looks like faux wood?
Yeah, I think it's wood with gold leaf
Yeah.
paint. Yeah. This is a portrait painted by Montpelier artist Thomas Waterman Wood of
Oh.
Montpelier. He also lived in a Gothic Revival style house that still exists in Montpelier on Northfield Street, privately owned. He did another portrait, only this one in watercolor, and it's of the dog Trump. The Trump in the first room. Okay, the artwork that is under the glass case here is by Italian artist Constantino Brumidi. Justin Morrill was chair of the Senate Buildings and Grounds Committee during his time in political office. He played a very influential role in the Mall of Washington looking the way it does today. This artist was hired to paint the frescoes design and paint the frescoes on the ceiling of our U.S. Capitol building and the Library of Congress building in Washington. Because that took so many years, they actually became good friends in the process because of being so long to do all of that work. In fact, Brumidi died before he finished painting all of his design work on the Capitol building, and I'll complete that story when we go upstairs.
Did Morrill speak Italian?
I don't know that he did. You know, his education only went through 1 year of high school, but he was a voracious reader. I mean, he had a large library, 2,000 books or more that he collected over his lifetime. So he did a lot of reading, and he self-taught himself on a whole variety of subjects. But I don't know about the foreign language. I don't know that he did.
Yeah, I didn't write anything about
I don't
that.
think I haven't either. Yeah. I also want to point out on the wall here, this is actually his original landscape plan for the yard around the house here. He was very interested in horticulture. In fact, he even had a hothouse on the property at one time, so he could experiment with various plants and things to see if they would grow in this environment. And he did plant a number of unusual things. We do have some trees that are still alive from the time that he planted them. So the various shapes of gardens in front of the house, And then this was a fountain that used to exist out on the south side in front of the porch with a rose garden, and then these were fruit garden plots that used to exist, and now there's ferns and other things growing out there today. And then the kitchen garden, you don't see it here, but it was up back. That was this horse barn, carriage barn, we see now our restroom building, and then of course other barns were up further up back. I'm sure you get to walk around and see. We do maintain gardens today. They're maintained by volunteer gardeners through the Extension Master Gardener program.
How many acres were this
When it started out, it was a 50-acre parcel. When he bought it, I think it's state now, it's 7 acres, I think is what it's down to. It's been subdivided over time. So the piano in this room is original to the house, and it was played by both women of the house, Ruth and Louise.
Yeah, who doesn't love a piano?
So at one time, originally the house, the outside wall was about at the edge of the piano here, and then in 1859 they would move the wall out around 4 feet, and they built on a new library addition. So when this was first built, this was actually Senator Morrill's library, and then it became the music parlor, back parlor as you see it now. So they ended up building a new library addition onto the house. They left this exterior wall, the window into that dressing.
Neat.
The old plaster on the,
Yes.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That's what it is.
So this was a brand new, this was not part of the original house.
Oh, I kill for
Added on in
this.
1859 when they were making their modifications and additions. So this became his library. We might call it his man cave today, where he spent a lot of time reading and writing. In fact, he's pictured here in the room in this photo that you see on the table here. The fireplace in here is the other one that's faux marble finish. So again, slate stone and then the painted finish to look like marble. And this one in a reddish hue. One of the clever features that he incorporated when he had the fireplace built was apportioning part of it for a place for fireproof storage. So this is all cast iron with a faux wood finish, and then it's bricked on 3 sides. So from outside it just looks like it's a big fireplace. You have no idea that there's a safe in part of it.
Yeah.
So they had a place where they could store their valuables safely.
Wow,
Yeah, it's amazing. That's so cool.
what a great idea.
So he has an impressive political career that spanned 43 years under 11 different U.S. presidents. Some of his political accomplishments early on, the Morrill Tariff Act, when he was a representative. He was chair of Ways and Means Committee when he was a representative. The Morrill Tariff Act helped the Union Army Fund finance their side of the Civil War. And of course, the ultimate goal was to abolish slavery, and that did happen, of course. Politically, what he's most remembered for are the Land Grant College Acts of 1862 and 1890. The 1862 Act opened up higher education for many Americans to be able to study the trades, be it engineering, agriculture, etc. The later act in 1890 opened up higher education to black Americans to attend college. So a lot of our black universities and colleges were established during the 1890s as a result of the second Land Grant College Act. Although he didn't have the opportunity to go himself to college, he wanted others to have that opportunity to be able to. We don't have a lot of his books on display, but he did acquire around 2,000 volumes or more during his lifetime. He was a voracious reader, starting in his teens when he started working with Jedediah Harris, who also had an extensive library. So we borrowed books from him, and then he would purchase books as he could afford to on various topics. So in here, the skylight here is another use of flash glass. And most of the panes are original except for one. This was restored back about 6 years ago. There was one pane that they had to have remade, but otherwise it's all original. The stained glass window on the south wall is circa 1867. Again, they picked that up when he traveled on his European trip, and that came from France as well.
How much did it cost to build the original house? You know?
I have no clue. I can tell you when the house was sold to the last owners in 1939, they paid $3,000. So I don't know. I have no idea what he paid. But that's a great question to research. Busted on the mantle here, this is actually Daniel Webster, a prominent New Hampshire politician who Senator Morrill was friends with. The portrait here is another one of Ruth Morrill, his wife. This painting hanging above is another scene from Italy, and again another gift from George Perkins Marsh to the Morrills. They were good friends.
Woodwork is
Very different
fascinating.
again. Yes, I know every room has, as you say, its own distinctive look.
So I'm kind of curious, the reason for his, the faux mantles, for instance.
Probably to save money, maybe?
Well, I was thinking more along the line, was he trying to impress other people?
Yeah, I know, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know, maybe. Certainly marble was quarried in Vermont, although I don't know, maybe not quite the shape, but certainly where there were various shades of marble that were quarried in Vermont. I know at our State House we have a fireplace that has all the various types of stones that were quarried in Vermont one time or another. So
There was also a whole artwork, was a lot of woodwork is faux painted. Perfectly beautiful wooden doors are painted over to look like a different kind of wood or a different kind of marble, which is really fascinating.
It is, and even at our State House, the doors are faux painted to look like mahogany, but they're actually pine.
Yeah, perfectly beautiful doors, and they're painted a different kind of wood.
Vermonters were pretty much frugal people.
Yeah.
They were very frugal, and
Make do.
They make do, and they use local stuff, and so. All right, we still have upstairs, and then of course, I mentioned it briefly, but the Mullen, Washington D.C. He was influential in hiring Frederick Law Olmsted, a prominent landscape architect, to design the Mullen, Washington D.C. He was influential in getting the Washington Monument built, designing that. So Justin Morrill played a lot of important roles.
Well connected.
Indeed.
So he was a state representative.
Started
and then
out
a
as
state senator.
yes, he served 6 two-year terms as one of our 2 representatives from Vermont. He started in 1854 when he was first elected, and then he was first elected as one of our 2 senators from Vermont in 1866. And he served until the age of 88 when he passed away, and he was still serving as a senator from Vermont when he passed away.
Wow.
Term limits.
And Patrick Leahy finally actually served longer than Senator Morrill. He had held the distinction of being the longest serving politician in Washington.
Which was the longest?
Well, now it's Senator Patrick Leahy served longer than Senator Morrill, about 45 years, 46 years.
Yeah. Well, he can. We like him.
Yeah, we've had good.
We like him.
All right, let's go upstairs. We have more to see. These are kind of steep and narrow, so please feel free to use a handrail and take your time. And then we're going to bring you up to the first landing here. Start with the bust. This is of Senator Morrill himself, and at one time every land-grant college had one of these on their campus. A couple of them have been donated back here to the historic site. You'll see another one when you visit the carriage barn. The pieces of artwork that are to the right of this door, these are oil sketches. They were painted by Italian artist Constantino Vermiti. The upper one is a depiction of George Washington at Valley Forge, and the lower one is a depiction of the Boston Massacre. On the slope portion of the wall above, this is a chalk and charcoal grail. This was done by another Italian artist by the name of Filippo Costagini. It's a depiction of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and he is the artist that actually finished painting Bermini's designs on the frescoes of the Capitol building's ceiling. Because that work took so many years from design to sketching to painting, Bernini died before he could finish all of his work. So Filippo Costagini actually finished the painting of Bernini's designs. This little door just opens into the maid's quarters. So you get it open so you can just get a little glimpse. We don't have that open for touring, but the maid's quarters consisted of 2 bedrooms, one over the woodshed, one over the kitchen, a sitting room, a small sewing room, and there was a little bit of linen storage. And then they had a back stairway directly down into the original kitchen. So the Morrills could ring from downstairs, and if they were up here, they would hear the bell, and they could go down and respond.
That looks just like my Derby Line house, remember? Where you opened the base, you had the secret door. In your bedroom, you could go through a closet, and there would be a door.
Oh, wow.
And it opened that looked just like that. It was right on the border of Derby Line.
Oh, yeah.
Just like that.
Never went through the magic door.
Yeah, there was a whole other life over the...
Any
Now, this
hints?
portrait is their son, James Morrill. This was commissioned by his Aunt Louise upon his death. Again, he died pretty young. I'll tell you a little more about him. He was 53 when he passed away. He did go to college. He started out locally at Dartmouth College with the intent of studying medicine, which he did for 3 years. And then he decided that was not the direction he wanted to go. He decided he was interested in law. He also decided to transfer to the University of Vermont, which is where he did graduate. So this is on loan to us from the University of Vermont. So when he passed away in 1910, his Aunt Louise commissioned this portrait to be painted of him.
They're all very robust, including all these guys.
Yes.
I can't
Yeah.
imagine they were that
Healthy.
healthy.
back then.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they all look very healthy and well nourished.
Yeah.
No one.
Some
No.
artistic embellishments, likely.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
I'll
sure there
betcha.
were some
I'll
liberties.
betcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Now the ceiling, you notice again, we have another use of flash glass here, the skylight.
That's just the way, yeah.
Yeah. And then above in the roof is a clear skylight that shines directly on that, so it brings light right in. So we'll come up 3 more steps. Here's another portrait of James' younger days. I'm going to bring you into this chamber to the right. Are you ready?
The railings are so low.
Yeah. Again, you know, for the most part, people were shorter, I think. A lot of people were shorter. Not everybody. Although Senator Morrill, I think, was fairly tall for that time period. We don't exactly know how the family used the house on these upstairs rooms. We give an interpretation of, we think, how they might have used the rooms. This is the only room on the second floor that has a fireplace. We think it was designed maybe to be an upstairs study when Senator Morrill designed the house. Again, he was a bachelor at that point in time. It's also the only room that has these cabinets with shelves and the glass panel doors. So we think maybe his wife possibly used this room more than anyone else for a reading room, for a room to do correspondence. We also know from early correspondence that Senator Morrill, or Justin Morrill rather, sent to his father-in-law that his wife had epileptic seizures, and she had her first seizure 3 weeks into their marriage. So he had written a letter to his father-in-law asking how you deal with that. So we think she might have used this room as a recovery room when she had those seizures. It was quieter, a little away from the rest of the rooms. Family.
I love the way they did the drapes so you could swing it open.
Now those are from the 1940s. So the last women that owned the house added those curtains. And you see that in another room as we go in. They also wallpapered a couple of rooms, which you'll see when we go into the rooms again from the 1940s. And then they had put in a bathroom in part of the maid's quarters, and then when the state of Vermont acquired the property, they took the bathroom out to return that area as close to original as they could. So the last 2 owners, those women, really kept the house the way you're seeing it today, which is pretty remarkable.
closet? How did that go?
Closet, yep.
Yeah.
Knee wall space. I can open it up. Yes, he made excellent use of. Every room has at least one closet.
Wow.
You can kind of
It
walk
goes
into
back
it.
kind of far too.
So very good use of the knee wall space on the second floor for closets.
Yeah.
And some of them even have a window. Bring in light. So.
Modern closets could take some hints here.
Yes, and you think he did this, he designed this, and again, he studied the designs of Andrew Jackson Downing. If you look at Downing's books, you can pick up elements of the house from the outside that he borrowed or copied. All right, we call that room the north chamber. It's on the north side of the house. Now I'm going to take you to what we call the west chamber, which is for the road. So we think this is probably the bedroom that Justin and Ruth Morrill slept in. Again, this is one of the two rooms that was wallpapered in the 1940s. Most of the furnishings in here, they are walnut, and they came from the Washington, D.C. house, and you know the headboard just barely fits under the ceiling. Again, the ceilings in their Victorian-style house in Washington, D.C. were much higher than in this house. So that they had a nice view of their formal gardens in the front yard here. If you look slightly across the street, you see a yellow house through the trees. It's kind of Gothic revival style too. That was the caretaker's house. Now the caretaker's house actually started out on this side of the road. There was a house that existed where you parked your vehicle today. They took that house down and they built a brand new house across the road. I think they decided that was a little too close, so they built the house across the street for the caretaker. Again, curtains, same material as in the north chamber, so 1940s as well, in addition. Two women that owned this house last.
Would it have been safe, even back then, to step on this little roof?
I don't know that they actually went out on that roof. I think it was more, that was just more for decoration. Again, Gothic Revival was a lot of bric-a-brac, I call it. Barge boards and things, very decorative, things that maybe not necessarily practical. It certainly requires a lot of maintenance.
Oh yeah.
This house, it's always something that needs to be done.
Beautiful stuff though.
Right.
Wow. So how do they keep the upstairs warm if the only fireplace were in that other room?
If you notice carefully, there was a flue through here. So there was a stove of some sort that had in here. And when we go into the next room, you're going to actually see the central chimney, and you'll see where the flues had come through the walls through that room into the central chimney. Of course, nowadays that's definitely a fire code window, but back then, no.
Do the maids also have
They had a stove.
Okay.
Yeah, there's chimneys back in the yeah.
Okay.
There's several chimneys in the house.
These are painted.
Yeah, it's faux finish.
Yeah.
Probably either pine or maple is the wood.
I never would have known that.
Again, an economical way to make it look more expensive wood by using what was available. The next room we're going to bring you in, we think might have been their son's room, James. And we have it furnished for a young boy. And in fact, here's the central chimney I just mentioned.
Oh, okay.
And you can see the holes in the wall, so the flues from adjoining rooms came into this central chimney, and then this room would have had its own little stove as well.
Whoa.
The window, or the hole in the wall, yep, that was part of the original plan. So it had a pane of glass in it at one time, it doesn't now, but they were able to peek in on their young son and see if he was asleep or not. Without...
See how red the stovepipe was?
Yeah.
No. Oh my God.
I know. It must have been a warm room anyway. It would be warm for a young child. So.
Yeah.
I know. Yes. Nowadays, yes, we definitely. That's a no. But, I want to mention in here the spool furniture, the bedstead, and then the tables for the school legs. These were all made right here in Stratford Village. There was a furniture factory known as the Hatch Bedstead Factory, which was located up next to the stream, the Appomattox Brook, behind the meeting house. And so that was made here, and descendants of the Hatch family still own a house in Stratford. In fact, the cape with a porch along the front right across from the parking lot is still owned by descendants of the Hatch family. So this room is called the South Chamber, being on the south side of the house.
Sounds expensive.
And we got one more room to bring you into.
Closet.
It's for the attic.
That's the attic. Oh, the
Yeah.
stairway to the. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the attic would be, they'd store things in trunks up there. So this room, we call the East Chamber, being on the east side of the house. We think this could have been Louise's room. We're fairly certain, but not 100% certain, the furnishings in here are made at the Hatch Bedstead Factory right here in Stratford. Cottage style, of course, painted wood with the painted designs. Wallpaper again from the 1940s. A lot of the pictures in here all have a religious theme to them, as you notice. Again, all things that were owned by the Morrill family, and they were either in this house always, or they came from the Washington, D.C. house.
Is the picture rail original to the house?
Yes, and that is called gesso. That's either plaster or wood, and that would allow them to hang pictures without punching a hole in the wall, risk breaking or cracking the plaster. So,
A beautiful thing.
yeah.
So
Not a
you-
great view from this bedroom, but you can see the stamped tin shingles on the roof. Now, when the house was first built, it was cedar shakes or shingles that was the roofing, and then this material was put on in the late 1880s to the house. And when you visit the woodshed, you'll be able to see it right up close and actually handle it, feel it. We have some on display in our woodshed exhibit on the architecture.
That's long.
Yeah, some of it has been actually to the left. We did have to restore. And some of that is actually new. They found a company up in Toronto, Canada that could replicate the design because they had some water issues with that dormer several years ago, so they had to replace roofing there. So that is newer material that was copied.
So Louise, if you refresh my memory, she was the aunt who outlived everyone?
Yeah, she was half sister to Ruth Morrill. Yep. And when their father got remarried, she did not have a good relationship with his stepmother, is our understanding. So she came, it was a win-win when she came to live with the Morrill family. Because of Ruth having the epileptic seizures, she was able to take over the child care stuff. They also entertained a lot at their house in Washington. They would hold frequent card parties and things. So again, she could step in and just make sure things were going fine if Ruth had a seizure at that point in time. So she ended up really becoming part of the family. She lived the rest of her life with the Morrill family. And then again, when the parents died, her sister, half-sister, and husband died, James, she lived with James, and then she ended up living by herself until she passed away in 1919. So she donated funding for the Morrill Harris Library that's next door to this historic site that came from her estate. So she was very, very generous. And pincushion, pillow, eyeglasses, those are items that were hers.
Wow.
Yeah. So, any other questions? We'll make our way back downstairs. I don't know if you've been around the site at all yet, or just the house. Okay, there's more to see. The carriage barn is open, and up in the carriage barn is an interpretive display that talks about Justin Morrill's political career. It shows you some more pictures of the house in Washington. The ice house, where they collected and stored ice for their refrigeration. You cross a little footbridge, and that is open, and it has the display, and it talks about how that was harvested and stored, etc. The ice house has a little interesting history itself. When the Catholic priest bought this property and subdivided it, he sold the ice house and it went off the property for quite a few years. And it was rediscovered in 1989 and brought back and restored in the early 1990s. So
Wow.
1989? It was
in 1989 it was found
Wow.
at a neighboring farm,
How cool.
all that far away from here. And then they brought it back and they did some major restoration work on it. So.
Fun.
All right, we'll make our way back downstairs.
Excellent. This has been really fun. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
So interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing what he accomplished. And again, 1 year of high school was his
Right.
highest,
To be self-educated and
yeah, to do all he did.
Yeah. And obviously made lots of money.
Yes, they did very well in the mercantile trade. I think they invested in real estate, so then they would turn around and they could sell it. And so I think that's how they made a lot of money. And that's how he was able to retire at the young age of 38.
Wow.
Have this
For the
built-
first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first time I retired.
And then,
Should you go ahead of me?
okay, yeah. Yes, that's right.
Interesting.
Yep.
Real estate down there. Yeah, it's really fun. So it has a furnace. It had.
Yeah, the furnace was put in around 1910 with fire furnace. James, the son, after his parents had died, about 1910, before he died, put in a wood-fired furnace. So that's why in the parlor you saw the fireplace was closed off.
Right.
Once they put in the furnace, that's what they heated the house
Sure.
with.
Yeah, nice. And registers.
And again, yeah, so the caretaker probably kept some heat going during the winter, even though they weren't living in the house.
Sure, sure.
But there was a caretaker across the road that took care of the property. And of course, they had animals for their needs, their food needs and stuff. A barn to visit. So yeah, walk around the grounds. Don't forget to check out the dining room screens.
Right.
Painted scenes.
Right.
What else? The ice house is across, there's a little footbridge, you just cross that and you'll find it very easily. And there are gardens around.
Great.
Take a look at those and whatever. If you have other questions, come back and
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great.
And if you want to take your booties off,
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
you don't have to take those with you.
Good idea, yes. Yeah. Ruined in grass.
Thank you very much for this wonderful tour.
Well, you're welcome. My
Yeah.
pleasure. We enjoy having people see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Neat.
Yep.
Ah. All right. Well, this was worth the, what was it, like a 3-hour drive for me. I live in South Burlington.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Thanks for making the trip there.
Absolutely. This was great.
Now, if you're in town, if you're interested, the Morrills are buried just up here in the cemetery, and it's a mausoleum made out of berry granite. You can't miss it. It's a beautiful old meeting house here in town too, late 1700s on the green. And then if you go up to the green and you bear to the left, I mentioned his house. It's near the cemetery. You go over the bridge, and it's a 2.5-story white colonial house. It's right next to the cemetery. That's the house he grew up in. Next to that, just before that, is the blacksmith shop, which is now a private home, red and stone building. That was his father's blacksmith shop.
It's stunning. The buildings are still standing.
Yeah, and it's pretty much, it's almost a time capsule. It pretty much looks, the only building he wouldn't recognize if he came back today, Senator Morrill, would be the library next door, the Morrill Harris Library. Otherwise, everything else was here in his lifetime.
Wow.
All right.
Well, again, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it was fabulous.
Thanks.
This is Patricia, and I'm traveling for history. I want to thank you for coming along with me today as we had this fabulous tour with Sidney McLam of the Justin Morrill Homestead here in Stratford, Vermont. Until I see you again, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.